Hello and welcome to FACT's webinar called Search Engine Optimization for Farm Websites. Our presenter today is Joe Cook. I am Larissa McKenna, FACT's Humane Farming Program Director, and I will be moderating the session. Thanks for being here. So before we dive right into the presentation, let me take a minute or two for a few quick introductions. Food Animal Concerns Trust, or FACTS. We are a national nonprofit organization headquartered in Illinois. We work to ensure that food-producing animals are raised in a healthy and humane manner. We accomplish this by supporting humane farmers such as yourselves, promoting policies that make food from animals safe and healthy to eat, and also by helping consumers make informed food choices. Along with my colleague Samantha, we run FACT's Humane Farming Program, which has the honor and pleasure of working directly with livestock and poultry farmers from all across the country. We offer grants, scholarships, training courses, mentorship, and of course, free webinars on a variety of fascinating topics. Please visit our website at foodanimalconcerns.org to learn more about all of our farmer services. So at this time, I'm pleased to introduce our special presenter, the amazing Joe Cook. She's founder of Sun and Soil website design and also owner of a small farm in Michigan. I also want to say that Joe is participating in our Humane Farming Mentorship Program this year. With over 8 years of experience as a digital marketer and 3+ years as a farmer, Joe has been able to combine her knowledge of SEO with her farming expertise to help farms all over the country maximize their online presence. So we are really lucky to have her with us today, and I'm really looking forward to your presentation, Joe. So I think without further ado, I am going to turn the floor over to you so you may get started. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Larissa. All right, I'm going to stop my video now that you've all got to see my face, and I'm going to share slides instead. So give me just one moment to get that set up. All right. Oops, nope, I don't want to do that. Here we go. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Larissa, stop me if you can't see my screen. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We are going to be talking about SEO for farmers. There's a lot I want to share today, and I have a very limited amount of time. So I'm going to be talking quickly, and we are going to be speaking broadly about SEO. I just really want you to know as a disclaimer that there is a lot more to SEO than what I have time to go over today. So feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or you want to go more in depth later on. A little bit about me. I am Joe Cook. Just like Larissa said, I own a digital marketing agency called Sun and Soil Website Design. I am also a FACT mentee farming on 23 acres in Munich, Michigan. And it's my pleasure to be able to combine both digital marketing and farming to kind of help other farms create more revenue. So let's just get straight into it. Biggest first question is just, what is SEO? And SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. It is a set of assumed ever-changing best practices for getting your website to rank highly on Google for specific search terms. So let's break down each one of these phrases real quick. Assumed means that no one truly 100% knows what goes into Google's ranking algorithm, not even the engineers at Google. So what we do is that the digital marketing world has collectively experimented and found certain practices to be more or less useful. We take that information that we've experimented with, and we also go based on some of the things that Google has told us that it is looking for. So Google can tell us some of the things like mobile responsiveness and page loading time, but Google doesn't necessarily give out all of the information on what leads to the most optimized website. Ever-changing means exactly that the internet experiences changes, and therefore Google's algorithm experiences a lot of changes. So SEO is constantly changing. Easy example of that is 6 years ago, we didn't really view a lot of things on the internet on our phones. Now we do. And so because of that, mobile responsiveness has become a large part in SEO versus it was not a large part in SEO 6+ years ago. So Google is ever changing. Best practices just means that it isn't a hard science. SEO isn't a very tangible concept. It's just a way to make tweaks to your website that makes it more likely to get Google's attention. I like to kind of think of SEO as similar to selling a house. There's not necessarily a step-by-step guide to selling a house or like any one way to sell a house. But if you paint over like your neon green walls with a neutral tone, you'll likely have more buyers. So it's things like that. Very lastly, specific search terms means that we aren't trying to get your website on top of every single page on Google. We're not trying to get you on top of pages that aren't relevant to your business. We're not trying to show up on Google when somebody searches carpet cleaning company near me. We're just trying to show up on top of Google for very specific search terms. So the purpose of SEO, what are we trying to do with search engine optimization? Well, kind of like what I previously talked about, the goal of SEO is to get your website to show up first for certain search terms on Google. A majority of website clicks come from like the first 3 websites on Google's search page. So that's where we want to be. That's our goal in SEO. Now, as a quick aside, I talk a lot about Google, but Google isn't the only search engine in the world. I use Google exclusively inside this presentation for 2 reasons. One, Google's the most popular search engine in the United States, and I know a large part of our audience here is in the United States, myself included. And then 2, Google offers the most tools for website developers like myself to be able to track and quantify the work that we're doing. So I am going to be exclusively talking about Google, but Google is not the sole search engine out there in the world. In order for us to understand Google, I want to explain to you the anatomy of a search engine result page, also called a SERP. So this is the page that you view after you type in a search term. So up here are your keywords. This is obviously your search engine. Below this, we have the websites that are ranked most relevant to least relevant as determined by Google. So our goal when we do SEO is for us to be either number 1, number 2, or number 3, because those get the most clicks. We also have here what's called metadata. So metadata is a meta page title and a meta description together. So you have your meta page title, you have your meta description. This chunk of information together is considered your metadata. And then we also see the URL of the website on our SERP as well. I want to point out real quick that when we Google certain keywords, like up here, we can see that they're highlighted down here in the metadata and that they're also showing up in the meta page title. So Google's already saying, hey, based on what you've put in here, look, you can find it in the meta description here. You can find Detroit here. You can find Detroit here. You can find farm here. It highlights it to show you, hey, look, these pages are relevant because they have this content written on them. All this information will come kind of in hand later when we talk about keywords more in depth. So let me just keep talking a little bit more broadly. So before I dive deeply into like SEO best practices, I really want to finish this section of our webinar by lightly discussing what impact SEO has on your farm. So SEO is a way to enhance the marketing value of your website. People every day are Googling organic eggs for sale near me, or I don't know, you pick flower farms in Detroit. And it's very likely that you and your farm aren't showing up because Google doesn't know that that's what your farm is about. Google doesn't know that you sell fresh eggs. Google doesn't know that you offer your space as a wedding venue. SEO is making it sure that what you do and what Google knows that you do are the same things. Once you tell Google that your website deserves to show up for certain searches, Google will then reward you with website visitors, which can equal an incredible revenue for your farm. Here I have an example from Jim, who's one of our fact mentees. He emailed me this like a couple of days ago, and I was like, this has to go on a slide. So it's SEO can do incredible things for your farm. At this point in time, do we have any questions just on what SEO means, what SEO is, what ranking is, like what our intent of SEO is, and why we would want to use SEO for our farm? I am trying, oh, let's go back here real quick.
Joe, I don't see any questions that have come in, but Sam, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to say the same thing. I don't see any questions in the Q&A.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's move on then. We're going to get right into it. So this is like a non-conclusive list of the most things that we have found to impact SEO.
Hey,
And-
Joe, can I
Yeah.
interrupt you? A question came in right as you were, I guess people were typing it in. So sorry, in the chat. And if you could put your questions in the Q&A, which is in the bottom toolbar on your screen. But we've got one, is the SEO automatic or free?
I see that. Yeah. So we'll get into that a little bit. SEO is not automatic. It is free if you do it yourself. It is kind of like I said, painting over the walls in your house. Like it's just work that you have to put into your website. It's not necessarily a specific tool or a specific metric. We'll go over that a little bit later, but it can be free if you want to do it yourself, but it is not automatic. And then I see that Mandy asked, is it good to put different metadata or meta information on different pages? Yes, and we will actually get to that. So I'm not going to answer that any more clearly yet. Oh, and I see we have, and I see Jim doing a shout out. Thanks, Jim. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move on. I will get to that metadata question shortly, actually longly, it's closer to the end. Okay, so again, this is the non-conclusive list of most of the things that we have found that impact SEO. Given that I only have 45 minutes today, I have to stick to like the most impactful topics. So if you'd like to talk about any of the not bolded areas in the future, feel free to just like shoot me a message and we can go over that together. So today we'll be going over keywords, content length, metadata, and page architecture. Let's see if I can there we go. Keywords. Okay, here we are. This is like the bread and butter of SEO. So it doesn't matter necessarily. On the other page, I had like page speed, mobile responsiveness. Those things won't matter if your keywords aren't in place already. So keywords are the top of the food chain on what you want to be doing. And then everything else just kind of gives you an extra boost. It doesn't matter how fast your website is. It doesn't matter how mobile responsive it is if Google doesn't know what your website is about. So you tell Google what your website is about by using keywords. Literally any word or phrase that someone would type into Google to find out what your website is about is a keyword. Identifying a keyword isn't the hard part of SEO. It's figuring out the right keywords for your site and using them properly on your website. So like I have written here, dog is a keyword, but if your farm has nothing to do with dogs, then that's not the right keyword for you. Identifying a keyword is literally just what would you put in a search bar? Not a difficult thing to figure out, but what is the correct thing to put in a search bar to find your farm specifically is where things get a little bit tricky. So let's talk about what keywords to be using on your site, and then later we'll discuss how to use those keywords. All right, this is, I would say, like top 10 most important things to know about keywords. Keywords are terms that your audience is using to find your farm. So if you're taking notes, like underline this like 3 or 4 times. What happens is that businesses and professionals know all these niche terms relating to their business that the general public doesn't know. So if you're trying to market to the general public, you need to think like the general public. For example, if I know somebody in here had mentioned that they sell or that they're a goat breeder. If you're trying to sell like 4-week-old goats to the general public, your keywords might be baby goats for sale. But if you're trying to sell 4-week-old goats to another farm that knows your niche terms, your keywords might be Nigerian dwarf doelings for sale. But the general public doesn't know what a Nigerian dwarf doeling is. They just know they want a tiny, tiny little goat in their house. So when you're thinking about what keywords you want to rank for and what keywords you want to use on your website, you have to consider who your audience is. So you're using the correct keywords that they would be typing into the search bar. So just a couple of examples on more about what keywords are and start just thinking about what keywords you might want to show up for on Google. Here are some examples for like if you run a flower farm or if you want to market yourself as like a wedding venue. I added this little plus city part at the bottom because of geolocation. So let's say you are a flower farm and you want to show up when somebody types the word florist. Well, you likely don't want to show up when somebody in Cambodia types the word florist, because you're not going to be able to service somebody in Cambodia. You also likely probably don't want to compete with every single person in the entire world that is trying to come up for the word florist. So it's important to add geolocation information. This tells Google where you're located. You are a florist in Chicago. So if somebody is typing on their phone and their phone is attached to a cell tower that's in Chicago and they type florist near me, Google can go crawl through all the websites it has and look for ones that are in Chicago, because you have used the keywords florist in Chicago, and it's not going to show that person a florist in Cambodia because Cambodia isn't near them. So that's why the plus city is important. This will also help when somebody, I don't know if I had said this already, I'm sorry, if somebody types just flower farm near me as opposed to flower farm in Chicago. This is how you get the quote unquote near me SEO value. So all that to say, since we are businesses that are based in a specific location and we are servicing that specific location, we want to make sure that we have that location as part of our keyword process. Here's another little doozy. So this kind of goes into that metadata question before on, does each metadata need its own keyword? Yes, each web page needs its own individual set of keywords. So that list of keywords that we were talking about on that last slide, and if you were starting to think about what keywords you would use for your business, you have, all these ideas of florist, flower designer, wedding flowers, multiple keywords. You can only pick one set of those keywords. So just florist in Chicago or just flower farm near Detroit as your set of keywords for each individual page. The good thing about that is that websites are made up of multiple pages. So your website homepage will have one set of keywords that it's attempting to rank for. Your services pages will have different and potentially related keywords that it's also trying to rank for. You will not use organic farm in Portland, Oregon for every single page on your website. If you want to market, let's say, for like weddings, but you also want to market for CSA shares, and you also want to market that you are a dairy farm, then you will have one individual page where your keywords are wedding venue in Chicago, and then a completely separate page on your website where your keywords are dairy farming near Chicago suburbs, and then a third separate page on your website where you talk exclusively about your CSA and your CSA shares. So every individual page on your website needs to have different keywords based on the intent of that page. What people try to do when they're starting out is they try to make like single page websites where you just explain everything about your website on the home page. And that's why you're not ranking, is Google's not really sure what that page is about because it's got 5,000 different ideas going on. And so it's going to go look for something that's explicitly relevant to its audience, and it's going to pass by you. Every individual page needs its own individual set of keywords. All right, so before we talk about how to choose and how to use keywords, does anyone have any questions about like what a keyword is or anything that we've talked about up until now? I will look through the Q&A.
Joe, there are several that came in the Q&A.
Perfect. So does Google use synonyms? So I'm not quite sure, Roger, what your question is there. What I think you're asking is like, if I use dairy goat and I use milking goat, are those two different keywords? And the answer is yes. So what you can do is it's called latent semantic indexing. Google's also looking for related words to your keyword. So they know that you're legit when you use your keyword. If you also have these other various words on your page that are related to it, but not exactly it. So for example, if you run a coffee shop, some related words would be cappuccino, cafe, mug, things like that. Google doesn't want to see you trying to rank for the keyword coffee shop, and then all the content on your page talks about seed shipping. So synonyms are good in terms of you will have one keyword and then you can use the synonyms also on that page, but your keyword is going to be your main word that you're trying to rank for. All right, how do you manage keywords like organic when you are not certified organic, but that's what the public knows? So honestly, that's going to be kind of up to you, your marketing, and the way that you want to represent your brand. If you would like to use the word organic because you want to show up for that search, you could always make that your word. And then on your page, what your content can say is, although not certified organic and, flower farming, we do this practice. The reason we're not organic certified is this. So you can still use that keyword on your website without giving the impression that you are an organic farmer. It's all going to be in how you relay the content, which we'll get to in this next section. Can you put geolocation before or after keywords? So geolocation isn't necessarily going to be your keyword per se. Your keyword's going to be the other part of the thought. It's going to be the dairy farming or the flower farming. The geolocation is just more of, so that way Google knows this person says near me, their cell tower is in Chicago. Let me find a website that has the word Chicago written on any of their pages. So it's not necessarily part of your keyword, but it's just one of those, again, like not synonymous words, but one of those words that will naturally flow in with your content, just that way Google knows where you're from and who to show you to. How micro do you get with location? Love that question. I hope I touch on this later. I think I touch on this later, but in case that I don't, I would say it's going to go based on the number of people in that area, and you're going to want to try and hit as many areas as possible. So for example, I live in Munith, Michigan. That puts me near Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a very large city. That puts me in Southeast Michigan, which is a large portion of Michigan. That puts me in Metro Detroit, Michigan. And those are all various things that somebody might be Googling. Somebody might say farm in Ann Arbor, and I'm going to show up there, versus somebody might also say farm in Metro Detroit, and I might show up there. What we can do with our location is we can make sure that we're adding different locations to different pages. So your one page that says wedding venue in Ann Arbor, then on your next page, it might be CSA shares near Metro Detroit. So you can kind of continuously use different locations on your various pages, so that way you can hit all of them. One last thing that I will say is, if you want to get, and this is like more of the advanced stuff, so I'm not really going to touch on this today, but if you want to get really nitty gritty on your location, you might have seen this on other people's websites, not necessarily farm websites, but in general, in the footer, a lot of times people will have cities listed in the footer, and you can like click on the pages. Those pages are specific location-based SEO pages. So that would be flower farm in Ann Arbor, flower farm in Lansing, flower farm in Munith, flower farm in Fenton, Michigan. And they literally just go through and put all their keywords to their location. So that way, if somebody Googles any city in their area, they at least have one page on their website dedicated to that. I think that is a little advanced for where farmers are at right now, so I don't necessarily recommend it, but all that to say, you can get very micro in your location. What if those topics are discussed on multiple pages across your website? Great, that's actually even better. So like your homepage will likely have information about everything else that you do on your farm. It's kind of your landing page to go to other pages on your website. That's totally fine. It's not to say that you can never mention those keywords ever again. It's just saying we're not focusing on those. So when we have to present our keywords to Google, we're not telling Google, hey, this homepage is about livestock guardian dogs. We're just saying that like our homepage is about being a local farm to Portland, and we also have these other things that our local farm does. So you can still use your keywords on other pages. We're just not focusing on those keywords on other pages. That'll make more sense when we get through this next actionable step part. Does a long-tailed keyword work when a short version of the search term is used by a potential customer? Yes and no. So if somebody were to say, I'm trying to think of an example. Give me 1 second. If somebody were to say baby goats for sale in North Carolina, and your keyword was goats for sale in North Carolina, or vice versa, it's going to really depend on the competition for any of those individual words. So, and we'll get into this again later on how to choose keywords. The short answer, and this is a really crappy answer to give, and I feel bad for saying it, but not a lot of farms are utilizing SEO. So you might have a lot of farms in your area, but you don't have a lot of internet competition. So you can do less than optimal keyword research and still get a huge benefit from it based purely on the fact that nobody else is doing this. So there's a lot of wiggle room in your keyword research. I am going to stop answering questions now just so I can get through a little bit more of the presentation, and then I will come back to these. Okay, so actionable steps on what we're going to do. This is our homework section. If you brought a pen and paper, great, this is the time to use it. This is the part where we will actually start getting into like the nitty-gritty group homework assignment. So the first thing that we want to do when thinking about SEO is determine what pages we currently have on our website that we want to optimize, or what pages we want to have on our website if we don't have one already. So what I would truly recommend doing is like literally just sitting down for like 30 seconds right now and just writing out all the individual pages that you have. If you don't have a website, all the individual pages that you want to have on your website. That's where we're going to start. Once you have that, oops, come on. Boop. Then we're going to figure out what keywords go to each of those individual pages. So our next step is to brainstorm what things you think people would be Googling to find each of those individual pages. I'm going to give you 2 freebies today. Your homepage will always be the type of farming that you're doing, and then your main city or area that you are working in. That is everybody here, like that's your keywords. You don't need to figure them out. You don't need to do any research on it. You don't need to do any thinking. Just your homepage, when you are ready to optimize it, your keywords will be the type of farm that you are and the main location that you work in. For your about page, your keywords are literally going to be your farm name. The thing about an about page is not too many people are necessarily looking for you, but we still want you to be able to show up if somebody's friend says something like, hey, I visited this really great farm called Shamburn Farm in Portland, Oregon. You should check them out. And then their friend goes to Google and types in Shamburn Farm, and you don't even show up for your own name. We really want to make sure that we have at least one web page on our website where we're trying to rank for our own name so people can find us if they already know us. So those are our 2 freebies for our first keywords. And then next, what we want to do is go through our individual service pages. And so that might look something like this. You might literally write out the name of the page and then the things that you think people would Google to find that page. And then obviously your little plus city term as well. You do kind of want to consider what your audience knows and what your audience doesn't know. So CSA specifically, before I got into farming, I didn't even know what a CSA was. I went to a CSA fair because it had the word fair in it. And I thought there were going to be like a petting zoo and rides. And then I got there and I learned all about what a CSA is from all the people that were offering it in my local area. But if I were looking for what a CSA is prior to knowing what a CSA is, I probably would have Googled like fresh produce in my area or veggie box delivery from local farms, something like that. So this is again where it really comes into knowing who your audience is and what they already know. And then again, that city bit, like I said before, you're going to type in as many or write in as many ways that somebody can find your location as possible. So like I said, if I were writing this out, I would have a plus city that says Metro Detroit area, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, Munith, Michigan, Southeast Michigan, just like anything that I can think of that I can change from page to page to page to give me an upper edge in my location. So that's what we would do here for our individual like services pages. And then the next thing we want to do is figure out which one keyword are we going to use for that page and which one location tag are we going to use for that page. Like I mentioned before, some of these other things might show up organically on that page. If you're using community supported agriculture as your main keyword, you are very likely going to call it a CSA at some point in time. So like there is a little bit of overlap in here. It's just when we tell Google what keyword we are trying to show up for, we can only really pick, not really can, we really only should try to choose one keyword or one key phrase. What keyword do we choose? This is where things get slightly womp, womp, womp for me. So professionally speaking, a lot goes into keyword selection. It's my job as a website developer to find the keywords that have the most searches and the least amount of competition, so that my clients have the highest likelihood of ranking and pulling the most number of leads from that keyword. A lot goes into keyword research from a professional level. For today's sake, my professional advice is to just pick one. Just look at your list and literally just pick one. Because like I mentioned before, the truth is that most firms aren't utilizing SEO or keywords. So your competition is so much lower in the farming field than any other field that there's not going to be a lot that you're working against. This gives you an advantage in not needing to pick the absolute most optimal keyword ever, because anything you do on your website in terms of SEO is going to be better than the nothing that your competitors are doing. So at this point, instead of being anxious about what keyword is best, just pick one, because at least you are doing something for your SEO. If you're like, hey, I'm looking at all these lists of words and things like that, and I'm thinking about what my farm offers and I can't think of any keywords, email me later and we can talk about my SEO services and what keywords might be most optimal for you. All right. So this is it. Like that's like everything that we have talked about today comes down to this. What do we do with our keyword? And the main answer to that is we write content for that keyword. And our content needs to follow these various ideas. It needs to be relevant to the search intent. So we aren't going to say dogs for sale in Livonia, Michigan, and then spend the entire page talking about seed swapping in Cambodia. I'm going to keep coming back to Cambodia every day, apparently. So when you're writing content based on your keyword, it's got to be relevant to the search intent, and it's got to be relevant to your farm. So if you don't offer a certain service that might come under a keyword, don't mention that on your page. Here's a big one. It needs to be 300 to 600 plus words long in total. So your whole web page, your each individual web page needs to have about 300 to 600 or more words. Google is looking to make sure that your website isn't a scam site. Google's also looking to make sure that like you actually know what you're talking about and that you're an authority in this field and that you have good information to offer its client base. So if you just write a one sentence thing about your keyword, Google's going to say you don't know enough about it, it's not relevant. So you need to hit that 300 to 600 words total. You also want to make sure you have bite-sized pieces. So you want your paragraphs to be between like 3 and 6 sentences long. You do not want a wall of text. You want someone to be able to skim through this and find the most relevant pieces of information. You want to make sure when you're writing your content that you are organized. So we're going to go over this a little bit later, but just to touch on it, Google reads your pages like an essay. It's looking for your title. It's looking for your header. It's looking for your body paragraph. It's looking for your second header. It's looking for your supporting body paragraph under that second header. It's going to read your page as if it is an essay. And if your title is halfway down the page and there's body paragraphs above your title, Google's not going to quite understand what your page is about. It's going to disregard it and move on to another page. So we need to make sure that when we're writing content, that our content is organized. It needs to sound natural, and your keywords need to show up as an exact match. So there is a difference between hypothetically trying to show up for farm to table experiences and trying to show up for farm to table events. If you just write farm to table events and you never write farm to table experiences, but your keywords are farm to table experiences, it's not close enough. It needs to be an exact match, and it needs to be included in your titles and in your body paragraphs as well. Again, you can have those other words that are supporter words for it. So you can use words that aren't your keywords to describe the main topic, because you don't want to sound robotic. You don't want to say, we are an organic farm in Michigan. Our organic farm in Michigan is the best. We are the best because we are an organic farm in Michigan. Like you can't sound that redundant. So there will be times that you will say, we are an organic farm in Michigan. Our organic practices include X, Y, Z. And sure, organic practices isn't your exact keyword, but like there just might be times that you have to forsake your keyword in order to not sound super redundant and super robotic. The last part is just that you will need to have your keywords in your titles and your headers as much as possible. So the title of your page should have your keyword in it. It doesn't have to just be your keyword. If your keyword is organic farm, you know, the homepage, your homepage might not be titled organic farm. It might be titled New Moon Acres is the best organic farm in Michigan, or New Moon Acres is a family farm, is a organic family farm in Michigan. You know, like it doesn't have to just be your keyword. You can fit your keyword into a sentence that makes it sound natural, but it should still be there. This last little tidbit is kind of, if you're looking at this 300 to 600 words total and you're thinking, holy crap, I don't know how to talk about a CSA in 300 to 600 words, add an FAQ. It's an easy way to add your keyword in. So if your keyword CSA, you have a section that is, what does CSA stand for? What is a CSA? Where can I pick up my CSA? How much does a CSA cost? Why do I have to pay for my CSA up front? Can I select the vegetables for my CSA? Just a real easy way to make sure that you can add your keyword into your website is just to make an FAQ all about your keyword. And so this step is just mostly make sure that you are writing content that is informative and relevant while still staying true to your keyword topic. And I'm going to show you kind of how we do that. So I'm going to switch over real quick to give you an example. So, hi, Jim. I'm going to show everybody what we did together. So Jim came to me and Jim said, hey, I really want people to come to my farm to table events. And when he and I were speaking together, we couldn't figure out a good, concise word for farm to table events. Did we want to do farm to table weddings, farm to table special events, farm to table birthdays? Well, we didn't really want 5-6 different pages. So we really just shortened it down to farm to table and Portland, Oregon were the two things that we were going to try to rank for. And so we have that literally here. We have our heading 1. So this is the title of our essay, or the title of our page is just farm to table, Portland, Oregon. So when Google is looking, if somebody types in these words, Google says, haha, there's a whole page dedicated to this on Jim's website. Then we have a subheading, which is dinner and brunch, just tells you more about those farm to table events. We have that as our heading 2. So H1 or heading 1 is our title. Heading 2 is just like our subtitle, our next biggest piece of information. And then we have our body paragraphs. And in our body paragraphs, we make sure to have that keyword in its exact entire form multiple times throughout the content. So we have farm to table, and then we have experience over here, but that doesn't matter because we chose just farm to table as our keyword. Farm to table, we have Portland, Oregon. You can see up here in our next H2, like I said, they should be in your headers. We made sure to have our keyword in this header as well. This kind of, again, comes back to what is your audience going to search for? We couldn't guarantee that our audience was always going to use the dash between farm to table, or that they weren't always going to use the dash between farm to table. So we made sure to add and remove the dashes at various points, so that way anybody that's looking for it in any different writing style, it would still come up for them. And so just organically, we made all these different sections where we made sure that our keyword was still in all of our content. We have all of our sections that relate to this one specific topic, and we're making sure that in its exact form, our keyword is showing up in all of this content. We also threw in the name of the farm as well, because we do still want to kind of make sure that everybody knows whose farm this is and all that fun stuff. And so that's what we did here. And you'll notice at the very end, we ended up with a word count of 516, which is between our 300 to 600. Farm to table, which is our main keyword, shows up 9 times on this page, 9 times very organically. You're noticing we're not just writing farm to table 6,000 times one after another. It is presented within relevant content. And it shows up 9 times on this page. Portland, Oregon shows up 4 times on this page. So I can guarantee that if somebody is Googling farm to table anything in Portland, Oregon, like this is the page that is going to come up. Are our keywords in our H1? Yes. Our H1 again is our title of our page. It is right here. Those are our keywords. And does it show up in our H2s? Yes, it does as well. It shows up in the headers of our smaller micro sections. So this is what your content's going to look like as you have decided your keyword and are building out your page. Let's go back here. Wait for it to load. Step 4 is just design. So now you have all of the web page content based on your keyword. You just want to make it beautiful. This honestly isn't really an SEO thing so much as it doesn't matter how many people Google can bring to you. If somebody gets to your site and then immediately clicks off because it's ugly or confusing or busy or not really sure how to navigate it. So just like make your site look nice using the content that you wrote. So let me just really quickly kind of show you what I mean by that. So we have, oh, can I not click on this? So this is somebody that has a CSA page and they have their 300 to 600 words. They used CSA quite a few in here, quite a bit in here. And so they have it, it's great. But this is also an orange page with black text and like, it's difficult to read. It's not very pretty to look at. If you're like specifically looking for the answer to this question right here, you're not going to scroll through this whole page to find it. Like it's not aesthetically pleasing versus when we had Jim's farm to table, we made sure that we have enough images. This is all the exact same content that we had on that other page. This is our H1. It's not the largest font on the page, but if you were to inspect this from Google's perspective, and you look in the back of the code, it is our H1 class. So even though it doesn't look like it's the largest section, so visually you wouldn't think it's the title, to Google it is laid out as the title. So it is the most important part to Google on that page. And then for our users, this is probably the most important thing to them. So we made this larger. And we're adding images. We're just displaying it just nicely and all broken up. So it's not just one big wall of text. Again, not necessarily an SEO thing, more of a user experience thing, but don't want to go through all this effort of building out pages with your keywords only to have somebody turn away because they can't view your page easily. So that's step 4. This to load. Step 5 is metadata. So here's where we go into adding the keywords to your meta page title and your meta description. Unfortunately, this is how it is different from platform to platform. Squarespace is going to have a different way to add your SEO metadata than WordPress is, which is going to be different than Drupal, which is going to be different than Shopify. You might have to do a little bit of research here on how to add your keywords to your meta information, or your metadata on your own individual website. I will really quickly show you how to do it in WordPress, since WordPress seemed to be the most common builder that other people are using. So if you give me just a second, I'm going to unshare my screen. I'm going to pull up a WordPress site, and I will show you how to add metadata on a WordPress website. I have a fun little intermission here. If anybody knows how to tap dance or like play the ukulele, this is the perfect time.
Jill, let me ask you a quick question while you're waiting for that to load. Someone was
Yes.
wondering, how do you get the summary at the end when you were showing us the Google Doc of the website? That's something that you did manually, I assume, or is it something that you have a program for?
That's something that I did manually. I just made sure to go through and check word count, highlight each of them, and just make sure that the keyword shows up. What I'm looking for is out of 300 words, I want the keyword to show up 4 times. And at least 2 of those times need to be in headers. So that's really just more for my own clarification to make sure that I hit my own personal benchmarks when I'm presenting work to clients.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. I'm going to use my website because my website's WordPress. So let me just pull this up real fast. Okay. So one thing about WordPress is since it has so many different builders, all builders are going to look a little different. So this is the back end of my WordPress website. I've clicked into a page. So if I'm on my WordPress dashboard, I'm in my pages. I'm clicking into my page. And this will work actually fairly similarly on like Squarespace and Wix as well. You'll have to click into your page in order to do this information. On WordPress, I have installed Rank Math, which is an SEO plugin, where I then go tell it what is the keyword I want it to present to Google to show it what this page is about. And you literally just type in your focus keyword. Then I click edit snippet. I can go in and just edit my title. And since my focus keyword is website designer, I've made sure in my meta page title that there's my keyword. I've also added my name to it as well, just because it'd be weird if somebody showed up to a SERP, a Google SERP, and just saw web designer as a title. People like to know who they're clicking on as well. And then down here, I can add my meta description, where I literally just made sure that I also had my keyword in there. And my keyword's written there twice, multiple times, in my meta description. So here's my metadata, and you can see that my keyword is included in it. It's possible you will have to Google something like how to add SEO value to Squarespace, or where is Squarespace SEO data, or where is Squarespace metadata, fun things like that. But I assure you that every website builder has the ability to add your meta page title and your meta description. All right, we are almost done, everybody. Hang on with me. SEO no-no. So here are the things that you do not want to be doing, no matter how clever you think that you are. These things will actually harm your SEO value. So do not spam your page with as many keywords as possible. So you do not want to have one page that all of the words on that page are either your main keyword or the variations of your keyword. You don't want your page to just literally say wedding venue in Ohio, rustic wedding venue, Ohio, rustic wedding venue in Ohio, outdoor wedding venue in Ohio. Like if that is all the content on your page, Google is not going to allow your page to rank. So make sure that you're using your keywords throughout content in a natural way. Do not try to rank for the same keywords on multiple pages. There's a couple reasons for this. The main one, the one that's most important to y'all today, is going to be because you want to rank for as many possible keywords. And if you're using the same one on multiple pages, it's possible that 400 people are Googling organic farm in Portland, Oregon, but that there's also 700 people Googling local farm in Portland, Oregon. And if all of your pages are just about organic farm in Portland, Oregon, you're missing out on those hundreds of people that are Googling a variation of a different keyword that you could dedicate to a page that you already have up on your website. So don't try and rank for the same keywords on multiple pages. Pick new keywords for each page. Don't try to stuff keywords in by writing white text on a white background just to hit your word count. People come to me all the time and they're like, all right, I came up with like 75 words. Can't I just write local farm in Portland, Oregon 500 times, just white text, white background? Google can see it, but my clients can't, so I'll show up. Actually, no. So Google has this thing now due to like ADA compliance, where they want the text and the images on your website to be a certain contrast ratio with your background. So that way people that are elderly or don't have good sight are able to view websites accordingly, or like they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're like accessible e-readers that they plug in are able to read through the website for them. Google doesn't want to see the same color text on the same color background because it isn't accessible for people with different abilities. And so they will not rank your page. And the very last thing is just do not use a wall of text. make sure aesthetically that you are using multiple paragraphs, that you have like all of your content that's relevant to one heading is under that one heading, and it's not just a ramble of content. You want to make sure everything is in nice bite-sized chunks and pieces, and that is more just for the user experience value. So as a recap, right on time, very amazed I didn't go over time today. What your actionable steps are for your SEO is to determine what keywords you want to show up for, and then dedicate an entire web page to that single idea. So you can either use web pages that you already have, or if you're finding out that you want to market a new thing, you want to add a CSA to your farm, you want to add goat breeding to your farm, build out new pages based on that idea, write keyword-rich content for that page, upload it in a way that looks beautiful, make sure that you add your metadata, however your website platform allows for that, and then repeat that for every single keyword you want to show up for. So it's very possible, and it's going to sound very dumb, but it's very possible that you will have a page on your website for like farm fresh beef. And that is it. Your whole page is just how you raise your cows. What are the different types of cows you use? Why do you use those cows? Where can somebody come and pick up farm fresh beef from you? And I know it's counterintuitive because we want to put as much information as possible on all the various things that we do on each page, but we really want to make sure that every single page is dedicated to just one idea, so we can prove to Google that we are relevant and worth showing up for on that idea. So that is what I have for you guys today. I'm not sure if I have time to answer questions. Larissa, do we?
Yeah, I think we do. We have, I mean, we can take the next 5 to 10 minutes if you have a little extra time, Joe. I want to be respectful of everyone here, but there were some that came in the Q&A. Some might have been answered already, but yeah, let me, if that works for you.
No, for sure. I just didn't want to go over if we had a time limit. So one question is, how many keywords is optimal / maximum that can be used? So when I think of keywords, it's not necessarily individual words. You know, like dog is a keyword, but also dogs for sale near me is a keyword. It's a long tail key phrase, but it's one keyword that you're focusing on. You want to have one idea. So remember, we want to be able to use that in its exact entirety at least 4 times on your page. So pick one idea, and however long it turns out to be is just going to depend on what the content that you're about to write is about.
Let me, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just going to tell folks, I'm going to be running a poll that something's going to pop up on your screen just to give us some feedback about the webinar, but keep going. Joe, will I do that?
For sure. Should your, oops, sorry, hold on, poll just came up. Okay. Should your location be by city and also by region? Should it be by city name and also zip code? So this is going to kind of, again, come down to not a lot of people in the farming world are utilizing SEO. I would say what's going to come up most naturally and being able to write about it is just going to be using the name of your city or the name of your region, or however large of the area is that you're willing to deliver to or service to. I wouldn't recommend doing your zip code just because it's difficult to sound organic and natural when you're talking about a zip code. So are there any indication of trending keywords? Yes. So there's a lot of SEO tools that we use that kind of show how many people search certain keywords, what keywords are more relevant to certain areas, things like that. Those programs do cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month. I'm sure there's probably got to be a free version somewhere that you could use. I don't have the answer right offhand, but the short answer to your question is just yes, there are programs available. All the ones that I could tell you are going to not be worth the money for you to invest just in your one business. Okay, so let's see. Is there a good target number of keywords to shoot for per page? Typically 1. Again, you'll kind of naturally come up with other things that are relating to your keyword as you're writing. And it's possible that those things that you aren't trying to rank for will still rank. So it's possible that your focus on your page might be baby goats, And if you write in Nubian goats enough and nobody else is writing in Nubian goats as their focus keyword, Google's going to go, well, at least this web page says Nubian goats on it. Like, here you go. Because you don't have a whole lot of competition. So oops, sorry, I just lost where that question was. I know there was another part of that question. Sorry.
Oops, sorry, that was me. I moved it to the answer section. The question was, is there a good target number of keywords to shoot for each page? Also, if selling to multiple segments, like the baby goats versus Nubian doe example, would you have 2 separate pages to sell to these separate segments?
So I would. A lot of this is going to come down to like your specific marketing goals. So it's tough to say like as an overall answer for everybody. It's going to kind of come down to what else are you doing in other places? Do you have one that's a main target audience versus a secondary target audience? I would say general public is technically who you're going to go for because it's the most like all-encompassing. Like your niche people also know the general public terms, but your general public people don't know your niche terms. But with that said, if you really are like, I can't even think of a fancy chicken breed right now off the top of my head, but I sell this specific chicken breed just for breeding stock. Like I am only going to sell people that want to show it. Then like, yeah, you would really only make a page for the breeders. And then if you're like, I also want to sell, I can't think of any of my chicken words today, straight run chicks, then you would create another page. So it's really going to come down to your audience, your marketing plan, all that fun stuff. But short answer, yes, you would make 2 different pages that are basically about the same thing, but using different words. Another quick tangent on that is the information that somebody in the niche might want to know is going to be different than the information that somebody that's not in the niche might want to know. So your baby goats for sale page might be like, how old are my baby goats when they come to me? What do I need to feed them? Do I need to have a heat lamp on my baby goats that are for sale? Can they be weaned at 3 weeks? Like the people that don't know are going to want that sort of information versus your breeders page is going to be like, here's their registration, here's their parents, here's our pasture raising habits, are they polled or not, like it's just going to be different information. So having 2 different pages would be relevant to those different audiences.
So Joe, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Can you have too many pages on your website?
Short answers, no. So like I currently right now am in the Michigan State University conference room because Michigan State University is one of my clients. And they have 6,000 pages on their website that we work to optimize. I would say again, because a lot of farmers aren't doing SEO, you're not going to need 6,000 pages, but there's a lot of universities that have a lot of money, so they need those more pages to get the more niche keywords. And it's also kind of all about how you lay your pages out, right? Not all of your pages need to be in your main navigation. You can put pages in your footer where people aren't really looking, so they still show up on Google, but they're not overwhelming for people when they come to your website. You can also internally link to pages where you don't have it listed anywhere, except if you go through page A, B, C, at the bottom of page C, there's a link to view page D. So there's ways to add pages without overwhelming your audience. David says, what is your opinion of SEO plugin like Yoast? Perfect. Great. Yoast is a great way to do it. It will tell you. So a plugin is basically like an app that you buy for WordPress, or there's free ones. It's kind of like a phone app. They do various things. Yoast specifically, if you install it, it will crawl through your pages and say, put in your featured keyword. Okay, I said this is your featured keyword. On this page, you have only written it twice. Please add more of that keyword on your page. Oh, I noticed you didn't add your metadata. Please add your metadata. So Yoast is good because it just kind of like reminds you of what to do. So you don't have to keep watching this video to remember what to do. So yeah, no, Yoast is great. Rank Math is great. They're all very helpful. 300 minimum seems like a lot of words for some page. Does that include SEO for e-commerce? So short answer, yes. It's difficult to, e-commerce individual products are a different sort of, we come at SEO in a different way for products, but still yes. So what some people do with their products is they will have, again, more of that FAQ. What is inside your product? Where's your product grown? How long does it take to ship to me? Are you adding taxes on top of it? Are, you know, just like there's all this other information that you can just put in these tiny little like toggle boxes where you only see the question and then you click on it and all the words appear. So it doesn't look massive, but all that information is still there for Google. Can you get away with less words? Yes, because not a lot of farmers are utilizing SEO. Is it best practice to use less words? No.
Why don't we try to do 2 more questions for now, Joe? That works for you.
Okay, let me look through them real quick and see if there's any ones that I'm like,
There's a lot of good ones, I know.
Sounds like we need to do another webinar.
Maybe a deeper dive.
Maybe about websites.
So Hannah says, how do you handle people using the phrases near me? So near me is really just Google being able to use your location. So when you use Google, Google knows where your IP address is, where your computer is coming from, what it's connecting to, what the nearest cell tower is, or all of that information. So Google's able to see your location every time you type something into your phone or type in a search on your computer. And then it basically just says, what location are you in? It finds your city, and then it finds something relating to that city. So for the near me, it's just making sure you're using those geolocational terms on each one of your pages. So that way, if Google's looking for Chicago, it can find you, or if it's looking for a Chicago suburb, it can find you, or if it's looking for Illinois, it can find you. So that's how you get the near me. You don't actually write near me on the page at all. Never write near me on your page. Just put your location on the pages and Google will do the near me-ing for you. Oh, yeah. So somebody says, when you showed the inspect tool, can you explain again how you input those titles so they are read as titles by Google? So this is going to be, again, for your individual platform. So if you go into Squarespace and you add your content to Squarespace, the way that you add it is by a visual builder. So you're able to take like a text box from the corner, you drag it, you drop it onto your website, and then you're able to like type in just like a Word document. You just want to make sure that when that Word document box opens up, that you are writing your body paragraphs as paragraph text, and it's just like in Word. Here, let me see. Can I share my screen again?
Sure.
Let's see. All right, I think
There, it is that
there
slide.
you go. So again, this is going to be based on your individual builder, but it'll look a lot like, it'll look just like a Word document when you go to computer. So when you go to add text in your Squarespace, your Wix, your Weebly, your WordPress, if you're doing a click and drop, drag and drop builder, which if you're building it yourself, I guarantee you are, because you're not hand coding anything. If you're not hand coding, you're using a drop and drag builder. You'll drop and drag that content box onto your website, and then it'll show up just like this, where you can type in, hello, this is my farm. And then you just want to make sure that you're going back and highlighting it, and then finding the spot inside your builder that says, switch it to heading 1. And this is my next section. And then you just want to make sure that you're going into your builder and making sure that if it is another heading, that you are switching it to heading 2. So it's all going to depend on your individual builder, but it's just as you're typing it or copying and pasting it into your builder, it should be that option there. And I think that is it for my 2 questions that I was allowed to choose.
I know, I'm sorry. That was, there's so many good ones for sure. And I did get some other questions that wondering about the recording and the slides. They will be available. I'm going to be sending them out to everyone, hopefully by the end of the day. I will also CC Joe on that email so that you can get in touch with her if you're so inclined, have some other questions or want to work with her in some regard. But yeah, it's been really wonderful. I just want to kind of finish up by saying, thank you for being here today. We do have some other really great webinars coming up. We have one next week that is going to be talking about farm liability and insurance. Some of the attorneys from Farm Commons will be with us, so that should be a really informative one. Some good questions I'm sure will come out there. I will be sending out links to all of the webinars and all of the other services that we have going on this fall and winter in my follow-up email. But I do want to just say thank you so much, Joe. It's been a real honor and
Thank you.
pleasure to have you with us. And, we'll have to talk about another way to collaborate and kind of continue this discussion, because there seems to be a lot of interest, and then there's just a lot of information to share. And it was so wonderful for you to, the way that you did it, made it really clear and gave some really concrete examples. And I love seeing some of our other farms that in our network being featured as well.
Yes.
And thank you to you, Samantha. I always like to make sure that folks know that Samantha does a lot behind the scenes to help these productions run smoothly. So thank you for being here. And to everyone that's still out in the audience, it's been a pleasure to have you with us today. Your interest, your attention, and hopefully that you learned a lot and you'll be able to implement some of these changes to your own business and websites. That's the goal. So hope that we are able to stay in touch and that we connect again soon, and that everyone has a great rest of their day. So bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.